Oops. Okay, so I'm going to save you listening to me reading everything at the top there. I believe you can read that on your own. We're going to get right to this. And so with the example there, we see that there are a couple ways to name that line. We are actually going to ignore the one that involves using a word. And we're going to use those symbols on top, which have an arrow on both sides, denoting that it's a line. And so a line can be read either direction because it extends forever in both directions. And so that can be read as line TS or as line ST. So moving on to number 1, we're going to have line segment CD. And our bar across the top does not have arrows on it because it is a line segment, not a line. Alternatively, we could write this backwards as DC because it's a line segment and it can be read either direction. Number 2 is array, and so it can only be read in one direction. It has to be read from the endpoint in the direction that goes and continues forever. So this is going to be ray XY with an arrow pointing toward Y because that's the direction that the ray is traveling. We cannot name this ray YX. That is not acceptable, and we are not going to do that. Okay. Moving on to the next ray, we have ray QR. Again, it's a ray, so it only has one name. Next, we have point L, and we'll just say L, or what do they say up here? Do they say we have to say the word point? Most of the time, I'm going to go ahead and put point L. I don't like writing words in geometry, but in this case, I sort of have to point L. Next, we have NO. And it's a line segment, so it could be read either direction, NO or ON. And next we have a line UV. This is going to have an arrow on both ends because it is a line, and it can be read both directions, so it's UV or also VU. Next we have line HI. Again with arrows on both ends because it's a line, and it can be written backwards, IH. And lastly, we have ray KJ, so KJ. And it is a ray, so it can only be read in one direction.